Hello everyone, David Lang here with my weekly fireside chat. But I have to warn you, today is more, I'm going to put the barb into barbecue. Okay, I'm going to be skewering certain people, not specific people, but people on the far left. And so you've been warned. I would say I'm an angry white man, but I'm not white, although I look white. Discussion for another day. Jews are not white. Stop saying we're white. And you might want to consult with the far-right Nazis who know that we're not white. Okay, so first of all, before I get into my rant, a few housekeeping matters. Last night I streamed a very interesting, fascinating interview with my friend David Ben Moshe, a black former ex-con that has converted to Orthodox Judaism, and he now lives the life in Israel. It was an amazing interview. I can say this, not because I'm beating my own drum, but because he's an amazing guy. I just had to ask the questions. It was an amazing interview because of his answers. Please check it out. It's on the Israeli Cool Facebook page and also on my YouTube channel. Okay, now to the rant. Okay, so I'm not a happy camper. And I need to talk out about the anti-Semitism that we're seeing and also the double standard when it comes to anti-Semitism versus other forms of racism. I'm going to take a sip of this beer now to calm myself down a bit. This is what I want to say. I've already posted a little bit about it, and I also spoke a little bit about it in last week's fireside chat. We see in the Black Lives Matter organization, and to some extent in the overall movement, which I distinguish between, by the way, that anti-Semitism has reared its ugly head. It's very problematic. You have all the links to Farrakhan, for instance, saying we're false Jews. You have anti-Semitic violence against Jews, anti-Semitic graffiti, etc., etc. And one of the refrains I'm hearing from people on the left, one second, I just need to put this down and use two hands to hold the camera. Okay, need my full attention here. Okay, so one of the refrains we're hearing, and by the way, this comes from members of the Jewish community as well, is that we shouldn't mention this isn't about you, Jews. Why are you trying to get the attention? This is about Black Lives Mattering, and some people, especially people in the Jewish community, acknowledge that there is anti-Semitism, but shh, be quiet. This isn't about you. Don't be a spoiled little petulant child wanting attention. That's kind of more or less the refrain you hear from these people. But I want to, first of all, rebut that in a very heavy-handed way, because it's not like we are trying to inject ourselves in the conversation like some, forgotten kid. Ooh, me. Why are you focusing on him? Focus on me. I feel left out. It's not like that. What is actually happening is we're minding our own business, even supporting our black brothers and sisters. And then many people, not just on the right, but on the left and far left, are bringing Jews into it. You're bringing us into it. You're saying how we're on one hand, you have people more on the right who are saying, Jews are behind the riots, pulling the strings, the Soros people. Although I've spoken about Soros before, he's not a good guy at all. But the way that they're using it is like a euphemism for all Jews. Okay? That we're pulling strings. Then you have people in Black Lives Matter organization and even part of the movement who are saying things, the intersectionality argument and trying, the pro-Palestine, anti-Israel people rather, trying to bring Israel into it, and there's anti-Semitism coming from that kind of sector as well. You have the Ice Cubes of the world who are talking about, as I mentioned, us as fake Jews. And, we're being injected into the conversation. They're making it about us. We're not making it about us. And if we're silent in the face of this onslaught, God help us. And God help you, anyone out there listening, and anyone out there probably not listening because you're not going to be listening to me. I bring up some uncomfortable truths for you. You're not intellectually honest. You need to take a check here of yourselves. If you're not speaking out against this anti-Semitism. Okay, again, this isn't about us feeling left out, wanting to say, hey, we're also victims. It's about us being brought into it. We're minding our own business. We're supporting people in the Black Lives Matter movement. And then we're receiving a lot of hate. And what I think made me want to speak out about this more was two incidents that happened, high profile news items that happened this week, which I've already spoken about on different forums. And I want to go into it a little bit now here today. One, you have a viral picture from a Black Lives Matter protest in England of a Black Lives Matter activist and a nice looking, kindly looking old man speaking to each other. And he has a placard around his neck that racism is a virus, people are the cure. And this went absolutely viral on social media and in the news. Look, the generations speaking to each other, it's beautiful. Well, it turns out that the old man is a guy by the name of Jim Curran. He's a terror supporter, an IRA supporter, and a Holocaust denier that absolutely hates Jews. Okay, that's disturbing in itself, and people can make mistakes, right? I mean, the people that saw this picture don't know that. They didn't do the research and know that that's who he is, but it's the reaction that's disturbing. And the reaction was, once it was pointed out, there were many news organizations and social media accounts that couldn't care less, or could care less, depending what way you use the English language. I'm a couldn't care less sort of guy, to be honest. And then you have the woman pictured, the Black Lives Matter activist in there. Her name was Rosie someone, who doubled down. And she said, after it was revealed what this guy stands for, in 1 second, I'm going to pick up my beer again. Once it was revealed, she didn't sort of apologize and say, oh, I'm so sorry and I repudiate. She did the exact opposite. She said he was a nice guy. He explained things to me. He explained how the black people have suffered more than the Jews. I mean, obviously what he was doing was he was feeding her some doses of Holocaust denial, and she took it and she was proud of it. Can you believe that? Someone who's so-called on the far left and supporting an anti-racist campaigner is engaging in this Holocaust denial and accepting it and doubling down. Now, she's, since then, because of the backlash, she's sort of, not really apologized, but she's sort of taken some steps back. But even then, when she took some steps back, she's like, but it's not about you guys. Why are you talking about anti-Semitism now? Exactly what I just was talking about. So that's one example. Disturbing example. And if that doesn't disturb you, you're a hypocrite. Okay, the second example was with a number of celebrities. Chelsea Handler, and she put on Instagram a video. She posted a video of Louis Farrakhan, the Black Hitler. Yeah, and that's not even, a superlative. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. This guy, have you heard what Farrakhan says about Jews? He calls us termites, he dehumanizes us. He's a piece of garbage, okay? He's an absolute piece of garbage. He's an evil, evil man. I don't care what the color of his skin is. But you have people glorifying him because, he's black. And he supports the black brother. Now, my black brothers and sisters, there are plenty, know that he's a disgusting anti-Semite, and they talk out against him. But then you have these people, these virtue signaling Hollywood celebrities and their like, and people on the left that are glorifying him because, he's a very articulate man. Don't get me wrong. By the way, Hitler was a very articulate man, although I don't really understand German, but he had charisma apparently because he had an effect. So you have these celebrities, glorifying him. Okay, similar thing happened. It was pointed out he's anti-Semitic. I believe Chelsea Handler probably knew that already, but give her the benefit of the doubt. Just say she didn't know it. Would she apologize and say look, I like this particular message of this video, but I repudiate and condemn his anti-Semitism, especially given, by the way, that Chelsea Handler's father was Jewish and she was brought up with some Judaism somewhat. No, that's not what she did. What did she do? She wrote in the comments to that Instagram post, she said something along the lines of, well, this goes to show that oppression leads to more oppression. meaning, and the implication was clear, that Farrakhan formed his views and has oppressive views towards Jews because somehow he was oppressed by Jews. Victim blaming. That's what she did. And then a number of days later, after more of a backlash, she actually deleted it surreptitiously, but she didn't apologize and she didn't explain herself. And were there any celebrities, and maybe there were, but not that I saw, that condemned this? You know, it's very trendy to condemn the minute someone is against a black person or a homosexual person, to condemn them. All these celebrities are there because it's cool to condemn that sort of racism. And by the way, I'm not saying that that shouldn't be condemned. I condemn that too, that sort of bigotry. But anti-Semitism isn't a cool type of bigotry. And you could look into a whole number of possible reasons for that. You know, that there's a perception that Jews are very successful. Sure, there are successful Jews, but not everyone is. Come to Israel and see how many are below the poverty line, for instance, or even in America. That's just a stereotype. So it's not cool. And because, you know, Israel is seen as successful and, you know, the Palestinian Arabs are seen as not so successful. So it's this this leftist framework, this paradigm that if you're successful and there's someone who's not successful, you've oppressed the unsuccessful person. Well, guess what? In this case, that's not the case. It was hard work, determination that got us this far. And the Palestinian Arabs are not successful because they divert their resources and their talents and their time towards, you know, building rockets, making terror tunnels, and just basically crying all the time and not actually doing something and getting off their butts like we did and then doing something. That's the reason. But that isn't a popular narrative, although it's a very true narrative. And I stand by that. So, and we're living in this cancel culture whereby there are celebrities. Look at Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr made some pretty stupid comments, I think. I don't think she's racist. I know her. I've spoken to her. She's a lovely woman. Okay, but she's in the public profile. She said something she shouldn't have, which was deemed racist against black people. She apologized, but, you know, she lost her show. She paid a very heavy price for that. Okay, we can debate the merits of that, whether that should have happened or not. But if you have Chelsea Handler and all these virtue signaling hypocrites in Hollywood, like nothing happened. There's no cancel culture there when they glorify Black Hitler. Why? How is that so? Don't you see the hypocrisy in that? I'm sick of being a whipping boy. Not me personally, but Jewish people being whipping boys and girls. And I'm going to speak out against it, and that's what I'm doing right now. Enough is enough. You know, you've got all these virtue signaling hypocrites out there who, you know, talk about the Holocaust and how terrible it was. But now, don't you see how the Holocaust could have happened? I don't know about you, but I can. And you know, my dad left Germany in '38, and I brought up with this Holocaust mentality. You know, this real awareness of what happened, because it happened. You know, a lot of my father's pretty much his whole family was decimated in the Holocaust, so it's very personal for me. And you know, a lot of times we think, well, how could that happen? It wouldn't happen now, because we're much more enlightened than that. We're much more woke than that. But guess what? I totally think it can happen again. Because all the wokesters out there, they don't care what happens to the Jews. Don't you see it? It's like, it's always, the Jews are always on the outside. Where, you know, we're against the black people, even though we were at the forefront of the civil rights movement. You know, all these anti-Semitic tropes are coming out from people within the organization, Black Lives Matter, and people on the far left. You know, everything I've just described now, you know, we should be very afraid as Jewish people. Or at least we have to talk out about this, because no one else is going to talk out about it. Very few people are talking out about it. And we have to defend ourselves. And I just want to end off on this note. So I have some Facebook friends also who are virtue signaling hypocrites. I'm not going to mention any names, but, you know, I see some of you who will talk about Black Lives Matters, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you don't talk out about the anti-Semitism, and I know you know about it. I know you saw what Chelsea Handler wrote. And you just want to make yourselves out to be these good people. And maybe you're partially good, but if you don't speak out against anti-Semitism, then you're not a good person. You're selective. You're not being altruistic in your anti-bigotry. You want to portray yourself as a good person. And, you know, it's not cool to portray yourself as defending Jews for all the reasons I've just mentioned. Now, what I'm saying is not going to be popular, but I'm not about popularity, I'm about the truth. And this is the way that I see it, and you see it now. And it's very disturbing to me. And I'm not going to take the advice of some co-religious of mine to shut up and, you know, let the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, it's all about that. I'm very supportive of that. Okay, as I've been on record and I've been interviewing, you know, as I mentioned, I interviewed David because I want to get to the crux of things. You know, I've had a lot of people since I've been speaking about it send me all sorts of statistics and articles and videos of black people who are saying, you know, the movement, I'm not talking about the organization. The organization's garbage, okay? Let me just make that very clear. I'm talking about the catch cry, that the idea of systemic racism in the United States. So I'm not American, obviously. So I want to know, and I'm not going to just, I read the articles that you send me, so thank you very much. But I'm also going to speak to people that it affects. So that's why I spoke to David, besides the fact that he's got an amazing story. And I have I'm going to be streaming another interview on Sunday night, 8:30 Israel time. Okay, I'm going to post an advert for it hopefully today. I'm not going to say who it's with, but he's also a black Jewish person, very popular. I'll say he's a rapper, okay? So you might work out who that is to get his view on things, and also because he's got an amazing story. So, you know, my credentials are there in terms of I want to understand the issues, you know, because just like I don't want non-Jewish people telling me whether something's anti-Semitic or not, only a Jew can tell you how they feel about that. In the similar vein, only a black person can tell you whether they've experienced systemic racism or not. So I want to reach out and talk to them and understand it. I'm also trying to understand things. So, but, you know, all these far left wokesters out there, don't be hypocrites. Okay? It's not like one sort of racism, you know, all racism is equal, but some racism is more equal than others, to paraphrase Orwell. So that's what I had to get off my chest today. I've been an angry non-white man today, an angry Jewish man. Hopefully it gives you food for thought. Oh,
you don't
1
sound
second.
very angry to me.
I have been, okay.
You don't sound nearly enough angry.
Okay, so let me explain. So I was actually, oh my God, that's great timing. So I got to say, so today I'm very serious. Just let me talk. I know you like talking.
I'm not allowed.
So my friend Aria over here, and we'll have him on the show. Oh, Yaakov as well. Come here. My buddies have tried to video bomb me
Video
today.
bomb.
And he warned me, he asked me, so Aria over here in the Lycra green or whatever you want to call it, puke lime, lycra over here.
Not a limey.
He's a limey, yes.
I'm definitely not a limey.
He's not a limey.
a
Look
yank.
at these good-looking boys. Just look at that. Okay. Basically, he said, what time are you going to barbecue today? And I didn't.
Yeah, I want some
I could have
food.
tried to. No, that's for Shabbos. But you can have
You have any
a
soy
beer.
meat?
You can have a beer.
Any soy meat today?
No, so he's a vegetarian as well. We'll get into. Don't get me ranting more. So basically, he asked me what time I'm going to be barbecuing, and I knew he was going to try to video bomb me. And I was truthful though. I did tell you when I tried to change the time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I was actually literally about to sign off, and you. I feel I have to give you the opportunity to video bomb this. I could have just quickly pressed the button.
I know. I heard.
Yeah.
I
Did
heard
you hear what? I'm angry.
I heard
I'm an
that
angry man.
you're an angry, not white Jew.
Let me just. Okay, I was going to sign off, but since you're here,
Sign off.
I'll ask. No. Wait, come here,
come
Yaakov.
on,
Come here.
Yaakov, don't be so
What
hard.
do you think about? Like, so the point is, I feel. So what I was just talking about was that anti-Semitism isn't like a trendy thing to deal with. So you have all this anti-racism, anti-black racism, and you have people on the far left that basically are not just ignoring anti-Semitism, but they're excusing it. And I gave the example of Chelsea Handler, if you know who I'm talking about, who had the video of Louis Farrakhan.
Yep.
And then she basically didn't. She deleted it after a few days, but she didn't apologize. She actually was doubling down for a bit, saying, well, you know,
I saw that
oppression leads to oppression. And then you had this other, I don't know if you saw that picture of the old man in England.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and okay, same thing. So what are do you think I have a point here that we should speak out against anti-Semitism, and that there are people on the far left who are being absolute hypocrites? Oh, well, wait 1 second. We have another bomber. Wait, I wasn't invited to your cycling.
I brought my friend.
Your cycling club. Wait 1 second. So wait, what I can't even turn this around. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to hold it with me at the front.
Here, come stand over here.
No, go
You
on.
gotta have the barbecue there?
You can, although you know that the flame's off for a while because it would be
okay.
burnt. Okay, so what do you guys have to say about this? As Jewish people, like, do you also believe that there's a lot of hypocrisy that we're seeing, and we should be speaking out? We can support our, other minorities, of course, and we should. It's a Jewish value, but at the same time, we can't let this go. That let these people who claim to be human rights activists and caring about people, just basically, I was going to say a bad word, shit all over us as Jews.
I don't know, I think I could take it to the extreme. I'm going to start a petition to change the name of St. Louis, Missouri. Because St. Louis was King Louis IX. And King Louis IX burnt hundreds of cartons of the Talmud in the 13th century. And we have he's a saint, and he's there, but he was an anti-Semite, and he burnt our cultural treasures. So, and
someone brought this up, that if the Jewish people were to topple down all the statues of people that pissed us off over the years, more than pissed us off, murdered us and persecuted us, good point. Then there would be no statues left. The pyramids of Egypt would be down, but not that I love the pyramids. But anyway, go ahead.
That's my.
No, thank you. That's a good point.
I got in trouble last week for posting something which basically addressed this issue of this intersectionality concept and the fact that so many people who are promoting and of course supporting the idea of we should combat racism also are posting or talking about or using anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Israel
and doubling down on it
and suggesting that Zionism is racism and Israel's apartheid or all these other canards which simply are not accurate. It doesn't matter who's saying them. It's Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or
the 90s called Aria.
Yes,
they want you back.
No, but it's been more recent also, and it's a problem. But the thing is, we have to be sensitive. We have to recognize. I was told off a number of times that this is not the moment. This is not the time.
But that was my point.
Right.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
When you were riding your bike, did you actually listen?
No,
My point is that it's not us saying,
no.
Hey, hello, us. Don't forget about us. It's like they're bringing us into the conversation.
That's exactly the point
Leave us the hell
make.
alone.
When people say this is not the moment, my answer is okay. If you're focused entirely on promoting equality and justice for the African American community, I'm with you 100%. When you start suggesting that a city should stop training with the Israeli police force, one of the best police forces in the world, one of the most moral police forces in the world, because Zionism is racism or because the Israelis are oppressing the Arabs, that's when I will speak up and say, hold on, we're together on this, but I can't agree with that. And that, I think, is your point, and your point is valid. We have to be articulate in our support of opposing racism wherever it occurs, but also in insisting that we don't be dragged in, and Israel's not dragged in, and Jews aren't dragged in.
We're not doing the dragging in. They are dragging us in, and we're saying.
I think anybody who's waving the Black Lives Matter flag has to ask himself a very simple question: which side am I on? Am I on all lives matter or only Black Lives Matter?
So
and you need to be very sure which side.
I mean, I don't have a problem, and I've said this, with the catchphrase Black Lives Matter, because they're not saying Black Lives to the exclusion of other people.
No, they're not.
They're just saying, okay, but this is the issue, and I'm okay with that being the issue.
Too.
And I'm very supportive of the issue, but stop dragging us into it, and then saying when we react, it's all about you all the time.
Right.
Like, come on.
It's only about Israel if the anti-Israel activists.
No, the anti-Semites. Let's call them who they are.
The anti-Semites make it about Israel.
Yeah.
That's
right.
So you're quite right, Dave. Are you going to give us some meat now?
Well, this, by the way, so Aria is a vegetarian. The guy that just asked for the meat, this is fake news, right? He's a vegetarian, but he eats meat when it's convenient to him. Anyway, I'm going to go now. Thank you, guys. I'll have you on. Hey, leave my meat alone. Okay, guys. This was supposed to be a serious talk. It was serious. These guys came along and we lightened it up at the end.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Take
What are you
care.
drinking?
A beer.
Wheat beer. Okay.